Hello and welcome to the Giraffe Social Media Podcast. It's what social media managers are talking about. I'm Caitlin McKenzie, and on today's group chat episode, we're going to be talking about paid social media strategies and whether or not we think they're essential. To help answer that question, I'm joined by some great members of the Giraffe team. We've got social media manager Nicole.
Hello, everyone.
Social media assistant Chloe.
Hi, guys.
And senior social media manager Dom.
Hello.
Great. Well, obviously, as usual, to get us started, we've got a little team question. So the thing I want to know today, is there something the rest of the team probably don't know about you? And what is it? I realise that's a bit of a... I've thrown you a curveball there, so I don't mind going first. I think for me, my little secret backstory is I used to be in the Navy Cadets from the age of like 9 to 15, 16. And my dad's in the Navy. So I think that's just where that came from. But I just loved it. And I was like weirdly good at it. So I was just like this 11-year-old like drill commander, like strutting around in a uniform, just, living our best Navy life. But it's like this secret backstory. And I like had loads of promotions. But yeah. It was an era.
Cool.
Don't do anything military anymore, but yeah, that was that's something you guys probably don't know about me. Who wants to go next?
I'll go next.
Awesome.
I don't know if you guys know. Well, Caitlin, I know you do know. But yeah, I used to have my own events company that I ran with my best friend. Say, about 6 years ago now, so it's quite a while back. We did events, student nightclub events in Bournemouth, Brighton, Cardiff, Portsmouth, so Bristol as well, so like all over the place. It was really a good experience. Learned a lot, lots of downs, but then a lot of ups as well. So yeah, definitely learned a lot from that.
Interesting.
I feel like you guys know this as well because whenever we do icebreakers, I just say this because it's interesting, I guess. But I used to regionally show and judge cattle, like stud cattle and beef cattle, which I feel like many people wouldn't assume about me. Other than that, maybe you guys don't know, but I really, really, really love Star Wars. Like, love it.
I feel like you might have mentioned it.
Maybe once or twice. But those are my two. I guess you guys already knew, but those are two random things.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But
I feel like all of you guys have such cool backstories and things that have happened in your life. The only thing that's coming to mind is that I have really interested in like vintage Polaroids, so like the original cameras. So I think I have like 3 now, and they're just so fun because the company who originally made these Polaroids stopped making the film. This other company came in and now it's like a different formula, but they still work and you can get some really cool pictures from it. So yeah, they're fun.
I've always been so tempted to like get a Polaroid camera and stuff. You can create it's like kind of like an art form now, right?
Yeah, definitely. You can get like the vintage ones on eBay for like £10-15. And sort of like fix them up because obviously they're usually quite old. I said old. It's like 20 years ago, but it's like, oh, wow, vintage. But no, yeah, they're really fun. I'd recommend it.
Brilliant. Well, I feel like we've all learned a little something about each other there. Great. So guys, let's get into it. Obviously, we're all social media managers, so we deal a lot with organic social media strategies and paid social strategies. But the question we're asking today is a paid social strategy essential? Now, I feel like we've all probably got some pretty strong opinions about this, but who wants to dive in first? What's your knee-jerk reaction to that question?
I mean, to put it simply, yes, paid advertising is essential. It allows your brand to reach new audiences who don't already know about your brand. You can have as many followers as possible, but not all your followers are always going to see your content. So what advertising allows you to do is just reach new audiences, especially as platform these days are pushing paid content ahead of organic content. So yeah, to be able to use targeted ads that are relevant to the demographic that you are trying to target strategically, you can then target these new users to learn about your brand. That's just a starting point. You can then, scale that up to then convert them depending on obviously what your objective is. If you're trying to sell a product, get them to know about your brand, then drive them to your traffic, to your website, sorry, and then try and encourage them to convert. So yeah, paid social is essential.
What do you think, Nicole?
Yeah, definitely. I think what a lot of people often forget is how an organic strategy and a paid strategy complement each other. And I think there's benefit in maybe just having one or the other, but together they're kind of like the perfect match. I think an organic strategy and posting is really sort of helping you possibly build a community or tap into existing communities and sort of reach new people. But in order to find those people to begin with, that's where a paid strategy really comes in handy. And that's where you find all of these new users who you can convert into following you. And that's just, it all works together. It's all one big, nice circle. I think, a lot of businesses need to consider how both of them work together and definitely start treating them as separate things, because sometimes people can just think of them as having the same strategies when I think they should be used in different ways.
Exactly, because it's easy to just put money behind, a post, but like you might get some results out of that, but as then, it depends on what your objective is. Like your organic strategy does need to complement your paid strategy. So yeah, and it really, dive down to like making sure that you are targeting the right audience for your brand to ensure that you are effectively using the paid strategy alongside your organic content.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you mentioned promoted like posts there a little bit. I think strategy is the key word. I think a lot of people maybe just they have an organic plan and a content formula, and then they're like, oh well, maybe I should promote this or maybe I should promote that, and the paid side of it is just an afterthought. Whereas it's kind of like your like Formula One engine, right? That you kind of don't have switched on, so you need to really consider how that money, otherwise you're wasting the money, like because you don't have a plan, you don't necessarily know, or you're just trying different things. And obviously experimentation is great, but yeah, I think you really need to be creating a strategy, goals, like metrics that you're looking to really capitalize on. Do you have any thoughts, Chloe?
I agree. I think I know a lot of people maybe who own small businesses or are just starting out in social media, and they kind of they know that ads are a great place to start, but they don't necessarily have that strategy, so they're kind of throwing all this money at promoting posts on Instagram or Facebook or wherever, and they're not really getting the results they want, and then like sort of step away from it. But I think once you have that strategy and the people you want to target and the demographics and the metrics, then that's when you start to see the results. So I think having that strategy behind it is really important, so that you're not just paying all this money and hoping for the best and not really seeing the results. But I think similarly on the other side, I also think it's important to give organic growth and a real go, because often with paid ads, you are reaching new audiences and you're getting a lot of likes and followers, but they're not necessarily, a lot of the time they are right for your brand, but you do have, some people who are just, random people from the other side of the world, and then that really hurts your engagement and your community. So I definitely think when you're starting out, really try and build that foundation of people who are really solidly interested in the brand, and then once you understand your audience, then you can begin to work on that strategy to build it up and use that paid strategy.
Definitely agree. This analogy just popped into my mind, so humor me or tell me if it's ridiculous, but it's kind of like, so your paid ads are almost like the big billboards, right? They're the things that really attract the eyes, get people to maybe come into store, whatever. But then your organic strategy is like what's in your shop. kind of thing. And so you can't just have a billboard and then you go to engage and it's just an empty room, or like you're like, oh, it's just more billboards. Like there needs to be
billboard.
the modern day billboard, the billboard in your living room. Yeah, so I think they're both essential, of course.
Yeah,
I think what
I
you
love
said
that.
as well, Chloe, that especially for small businesses, and even if you're a startup, um, it's so vital, just to build that exposure to begin with when you're just starting off small. Um, it's so important, paid advertising alongside an organic strategy to really help your business, to build that awareness.
I think a lot of business, I think strategy is the key word, as you already said. Sort of need to just think about, okay, what is my business? Is it a brand new concept? Do I need to explain this quite a lot? Do I need to have, organic posts going out just so I can really sort of establish what the brand is, what we stand for? Do I need videos in my ads? We all know videos work really well. So start thinking about that. And is there already an existing community I can tap into with organic? Because if there isn't, that's where you really need paid advertising so you can grow it yourself. There's so many things to consider, and they both have their uses. So yeah, together they work really well. And that's where I think you just need to start thinking about your business and what you want to focus on. And then obviously we can start talking about the different types of ads. But I think it's really important to think about what you're trying to get across with the organic and the paid.
Yeah, because you need to determine as well what platform is going to work for you. Like I said, like to determine what works for you, like who your audience are, or where are your audience, what platform they're using. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Instagram? Yeah, and each platform works slightly differently when it comes to advertising. So it's a really strategy, as you can tell, is the main point of this. Strategy behind your paid ads is very vital.
It's down to why working with agencies, obviously speaking as people who work at an agency, biased, but you really need to invest time, right? Like you need to sit down and really consider how it aligns with your full business strategy. Carl, you could probably do a drinking game alongside this podcast with it every time someone says the word strategy. But that's because it's so important. But I guess that's why, yeah, working with an agency is great because they can take that week to really sit down and focus on it. Whereas I guess a lot of small business owners maybe don't have that time. So yeah, it's interesting. Like how much time do you kind of think needs to be put into this? I mean, at the start and ongoing too.
What I found quite an interesting little stat from eMarketer is that 33% of consumers discover new brands, products, and services on social networks. And you think how many people are on social media? If you think Facebook alone, we're talking billions. Not saying that you're going to reach billions, but it just shows the power of social media and what ads can provide you the ability to reach.
What I think is super interesting, and a couple of conversations, I'm sure we've all had with clients already, is that I feel like maybe a couple of years ago, paid ads there's a bit of stigma behind them because I think people thought that customers could see through it. But, oh, it's a paid ad. I know that, I'm not going to fall for it. Whereas now, I think just generally everyone is more comfortable with seeing a paid ad and they're like, okay, I know this was targeted to me, so I must have some kind of interest in it. And I don't mind clicking on an ad and going forward and making a purchase because it was targeted for me, so I am interested in it. And a lot of people may still have that sort of idea in their heads that if it's paid, then it's fake in some kind of way. And there's obviously a lot of discussion about fake advertising that is out there. But I think as a society, you would say, I think we've moved past that. And I think people are a lot more comfortable with paid advertising. And I think that's completely fine now. I think everyone's sort of comfortable with that and understands it a little bit more, which has probably helped.
Yeah, I'm constantly really obviously screaming at my phone like skirts or like chopping boards so that I can get some ads targeted towards me. So I'm definitely down with it. I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I agree. It's almost like it reminds me of product placement. maybe like over the last sort of 10 years, maybe you start noticing like, oh, well, like Will Smith's wearing Converse in this movie. Like, oh, like, is that part of the plot? Why is there a whole shot of it? I just remember we studied this at university. So they did this whole thing about product placement and how much money that brand would have paid to put it there. And then you're like, oh, well, that's kind of annoying. It's kind of fake. Or like every time there's this close up of a car, there was like maybe a bit of a disconnect about it. But obviously we're all still streaming like crazy, I'm sure, especially maybe during lockdown, but we're also on our phones all the time. So it makes perfect sense to just insert products and stuff that would be interesting. And that's the other thing, like it's based on learnings and algorithms. So we are genuinely interested in it. I might not be that interested in Will Smith's Converse, but I've been exposed to it. But on my phone, I get targeted with cool vegan ink sweaters. And I'm like, let's have a look at your Instagram profile. Like I'm engaged. And it's stuff I want. And that's a very good example because I literally have bought a sweater recently because of an Instagram ad. So proof's in the pudding.
Speaking of celebrities and product placement, I know we probably, when we think about paid social, we think a lot about ads and paid ads. But what do we think about influencer marketing? Because that is the new up and coming, way of paid social, paid marketing on social media these days.
Definitely. I think it was really interesting, maybe a year ago, even longer, when it blew up that these influencers weren't putting, hashtag ad or hashtag gifted or whatever. There was this whole sort of movement just to establish some sort of guidelines because there really aren't, and it's still being established today. Chloe, you'll definitely know a little bit more about that. So I think that we've probably become a little bit more accustomed to it now. If you see hashtag ad, I'm not offended. Like, I'm like still interested. And a lot of the time, these influencers who actually take a lot of care in the brands that they do work with. So I think if you have that strategy planned out, then it's not a bad thing. But there is a time and place. There are some influencers who just take on brand deals and you can clearly see it has nothing to do with them. And that's where it can negatively affect your brand. So sort of curating your influencers and making sure that they're relevant to your brand is super important, I think.
I think people almost forget that they have the power to tailor their feed. You have that power as well with ads. There's always a more option. You can, if you see an ad that really doesn't vibe with you, you can choose not to see that. But I think people do get upset. And I guess that timeline that you mentioned, Nicole, like maybe about a year ago when it all kind of blew up, I think Cardi B was involved from vague memory. But it's up to you who you follow, and therefore the kind of content they share and the things that they promote, it's up to you whether you want to see that. But I think it can be a really good thing. And I know I actually did an interview for a podcast that will be coming soon, guys, with an influencer, Lucy Bennett, who she was telling me a lot about how she picks the brand she works with. And I was really interested because she does it a lot of why that brand wants to work with her and like that brand's values and the messages it wants to share, which I don't know if I maybe took into consideration. But I feel like maybe I'm going really, really far away from your original question, Chloe, which was, do you think it's essential? Or like, is it a good thing to have part of your strategy? And I think absolutely now with influencer marketing, it's definitely worth investing in. And again, it's kind of like, I think it can accelerate both your paid and your organic because you can repurpose the content that you create with them and make it go twice as fast. So it's all about the interweaving, in my opinion.
100%, exactly that. Like all of them in one, your influencer marketing, your paid strategy, your organic, they can all help to build traffic to your website. They can help to create more engagement on your social media platforms. And then within that, you can then create retargeting campaigns to then retarget these people who either have engaged with your post or have been on your website, retarget them with a not an ad that just comes across very salesy. Really make sure that the ad is engaging, is creative. Like Nicole mentioned before, like video content is very good with that to gain the audience attention. Just to sort of put it into, to re-put it into the minds of people of who you are, what your brand is providing, and try and encourage people to then, do some sort of call of action whether that is to go back to the website to, submit a form, or go back to, maybe have a look at another product, maybe offer them another discount, and that will really help you to convert. And yeah, all those three combined is definitely a really good strategy.
Guys see that there is a new feature now. I'm not sure if it's available in the UK, but it's something that's being rolled out. Whereas if an influencer posts a like a sponsored post by a brand, and it says underneath sponsored by whoever, that brand now has access to promote that post. So they can actually boost the influencer's post themselves rather than having to recreate that post. So that's going to change things, I think, because at the moment we're taking that content for ourselves, but actually having the power to promote that influencer's post is amazing, because that's kind of the whole point. You ask the influencer to post about it, you want their post to be seen. So that's super interesting.
Sorry. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I think because, part of the whole reason we do paid advertising is to reach new audiences. So I think by sponsoring the influencers post, that is boosting it out to more of their audience rather than just boosting it out to maybe your existing or more of your audience. So I think that's a really cool feature. I can't wait for that to come out.
Some like ads that have it. I mean, I'm not, but I'm like a wannabe gym bunny, and so I always see like Fabletics ads. I don't know, maybe Dom, you don't get targeted with them, but I don't know about the other girls. But I always see influencers who I don't follow. Their stuff comes up often in my story sponsored. So yeah, that's maybe something to delve into a little bit more, because it's effective for sure. I'm like, oh, like who's this real person? Then I kind of dig into it, and obviously the industry that we work in, like I'm like, oh, it's an ad, but it's clever. It's definitely a new avenue.
Do you guys think, I want to segue for a second because speaking of Fabletics, you've just brought something up in my mind. Do you think there's a potential to kind of go too far with it? Because I don't know if anyone else has had this, but like every time I go on YouTube, every time I am bombarded, like spammed with this ad from Fiverr. And it's like the most annoying ad ever. And it's just like every time I try and watch a video, and you can't skip it, and it's so long, and I'm just like off Fiverr now. Not that I would use it anyway, but I'm like, no, done with you. Do you think there is potential to kind of drive people to insanity with like ads?
I actually think there is, and whilst I own Fabletics leggings, this is getting way personal, but I basically really wanted to get some shorts. They launched shorts, and I was like, woo, let's get some shorts. But they didn't. They had a huge like stock shortage, which is fine. Coronavirus happens, life happens. But then because I've been on their website, I was getting ads on every single platform I used, multiple ads. And it was just frustrating because I was like, yes, I'm interested in your brand, but I'm waiting. And you just keep reminding me every 5 minutes that you're out of stock of the product I want to order. And that probably happened over like a couple of months. So, I mean, it hasn't super damaged, because I understand it because I work in the industry. But I wonder if someone who doesn't, you'd get fed up. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, I think it definitely can oversaturate if you're continually using the same sort of audience and retargeting the same audience, because then, like you said, people are just going to completely avoid it, and then your ads are not going to perform as best as what they should. So it's really important to not just think short term, to think long term as well. So, building that awareness, reaching new audiences, trying to change up your targeting slightly, so then you're not just retargeting people on your website. Look for people who are similar to your demographics. There's so many different targeting options that are available on all platforms to allow you to do that. And that's why that will help. And you can see that with the data that you get from, let's say, Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the data that you're receiving. You can see the frequency, you can see the quality of your creative, the amount of engagement your creators are getting, the amount of reach, and all this data, all these insights will really help you to optimize these ads going forward. So then you can see when, when is the right time to, oh wait, this ad is becoming very saturated. Now is the time to push through and reach new people. And then maybe in a couple of months, then you look at retargeting those people, the new audiences again.
Yeah, I think I was going to say optimization is so important, right? Because I've been targeted for a month now and I have not shown any interest in trying to start my own business, nor have I ever. So I think maybe it's very important once you've made that strategy and put that money in, that you come back and check regularly how it's performing so that you can optimize and switch it up. Even if it's performing really well, maybe you want to, change some of the metrics so that you can reach a new audience or new people, just to see if you can do even better. So yeah, I like that, Dom.
And maybe change up like the creatives too, right? Because if again you're seeing that same video over and over again, so you're like,
I'm so triggered.
Yeah. What were you going to say, Nicole? Sorry, I spoke over you.
Yeah, no, I was going to agree with you guys. I think, if we go back to paid and organic, that's where it sort of comes in as well. If you are sort of having all of these ads and a lot of retargeting, what about the people who have followed you? What are they getting now? You want to make sure that you're using the organic strategy to share new things and keep them engaged, so it doesn't just stop with the paid. So that probably goes back to what we were saying at the beginning, how there's benefits to both of them, and having them together is really the sweet spot.
Well, that is one issue as well, though, isn't it? Is that you can have loads of followers, but not all of your followers are going to see your content. So, and like I said at the beginning, platforms are now pushing paid content ahead of organic content, especially with how the algorithm is working on all platforms. Your posts, your organic content is probably going to be seen very late compared to a lot of others. So it's so essential to combine that with paid, just to help to bring that awareness for your content.
It's a good thing to have from the start. I mean, maybe you guys can agree with me or disagree, but I know, especially when I'm working with a client and they're starting from scratch, you need paid to just get the wheels turning and get the ball rolling. And also I feel like if you want to see success, that's when you really need to bring in paid, like in terms of like, it's rewarding, but also, business success and the amount of people you're reaching. Like just an example that pops into my mind, like, so I'm working with a new client and they don't have a lot of likes on their Facebook page. But one of their posts maybe reached like 50 people, because like I said, it's really early days, but then we put a small bit of budget behind it and promoting it, and it reached 40,000 people in like 2 days. And it's just mind blowing. And obviously like that is actual like metric. You can test that's I just said the word metric as if that was an adjective. If it's measurable success, right? And if you really want to start seeing that on social, I think that's where paid needs to come in. Do you agree?
Yeah, for sure. And you can see the customer's sort of journey with it as well. You can see it from when they first initially see your ad to then the conversion stage. And then it sort of provide longer lasting value than just your conversion. Like you can then retarget them again to then build everlasting loyalty with your audience. So then these people that have potentially converted will come back and convert again, maybe when you've got a new product. Yeah.
Overwhelming consensus. Paid social is the one.
Yes.
Well, one of two, but it's important, right?
Done correctly with a strategy.
There you go.
Absolutely. Well, guys, that is all we've got time for today. I think we've probably made our opinions very clear. Thank you so much for listening today. As always, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you'd like to be entered into a draw to win £100 in Amazon vouchers, and I mean, who wouldn't, you can do so by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts. For all the information and the further T's and C's, head to our Instagram where there's a tile on our feed which explains the whole thing. Our handle is GiraffeSM. Well, that's all we've got time for on today's episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've been Giraffe Social Media. You've been amazing. We will catch you next time.